You don't replace everything unless you have to. Altamont Lutheran did. They were planning to update surfacing. Port in place was the expected direction, and then turf entered the conversation late in the process. At the same time, it turned into the wettest summer they'd had in years. And they needed to design for up to 175 students at once, so this wasn't just an upgrade. It was a full replacement decision under real constraints.
The whole playground was here since I was a student.
When equipment has been in place that long, every adjustment raises new questions. Safety alignment, surfacing performance, layout constraints, capacity. They had pea gravel. They already knew they didn't want to go back to traditional surfacing. So they had to decide, do we repair around the edges or do we reset the system?
This is a very, very unique installation for us. We've been working on this project or talking about it for about a year.
Repair sounds efficient, doesn't it? Replace a swing, swap a panel, upgrade a section, but when equipment predates current standards, partial updates layer onto an old structure, things are risky. Changing one element can trigger fall zone adjustments, surface recalculations, clearance issues, and instead of one decision, you get a chain of decisions. They realized repair would preserve the same constraints. Full replacement eliminated them. At the beginning, port in place was the logical next step. That's common when schools move away from gravel. Planning was moving in that direction.
They knew they didn't want to use the more traditional surfacing because they had pea gravel before. I showed them a little bit about the turf, and really, as soon as they saw it and thought about it, they said, that's the way we want to go.
That's a major shift late in the process. Late changes create instability if they're reactive. So they evaluated it really carefully. Installation timing, weather sensitivity, comfort under daily use, 150 plus kids. Long-term maintenance costs, board confidence, it's a big list. So the decision wasn't about trend, it was about alignment.
We had the wettest summer we've ever had.
Now layer that onto saturated ground conditions. The soil becomes unstable, base preparation was uncertain. You force an installation in those conditions, problems are going to show up later, not immediately.
Then when things started moving finally and the weather cooperated, we were moving right along.
Everything was delivered right on time. In fact, it's actually even early.
You hear it. They didn't rush it. They waited until conditions were workable. Materials arrived as scheduled. Once ground prep was right, installation moved efficiently. That wasn't a small playground. At peak use, up to 175 students could be outside at once.
We've had 175 students out here playing, and there's room for everybody, and it's just been wonderful.
That doesn't happen by accident. You don't just add equipment and hope capacity is going to work itself out. You design everything for distribution of those kids. Multiple activity zones, clear circulation without the choke points, supervision visibility. A full replacement allowed them to redesign for volume instead of working around legacy bottlenecks.
We wanted to keep some of the equipment that we had. We did get rid of a few of the pieces that just were not used.
They didn't tear out everything blindly. They retained what made sense, removed what didn't, replaced what required structural reset. And that is an evaluation. It's not emotion.
Went very smoothly, got all of our drawings done, everything got back quickly to us.
All this worked because they made clean decisions. They replaced instead of patching. They evaluated surfacing instead of assuming. They waited instead of rushing. They designed for scale instead of aesthetics. It sounds like a list, but that's why this playground will hold up. It's not because it looks new, it's because they decided clearly.